Welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable. David O'Brien is the president and CEO of Quantum5, an organization that is making great strides with our retail dealers and a great friend of the fixed ops community. Dave, welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Happy May. Good to be here and excited for our Star Wars event, Ted. Thank you.
Dave, may the fort be with you. So
I was so tempted to bring a lightsaber and I just didn't get organized enough to have it here. But yeah, no, same to you.
That is very tempting. I see in speaking to you before we got started that the name of our session or your session today is Retention is the New Hiring. So first, I got to congratulate you on all the success that you're having with Quantum. But tell me more about this title, Retention is the New Hiring, and what exactly that means.
Well, Ted, it doesn't take a minute or two, right, to look around the industry and look around all the business community right now and go, okay, so how are we going to keep the good people? How are we going to attract more good people? And if we attract more, how do we keep them, right? And whether you're talking about technicians or whether you're talking about just somebody to drive the parts truck safely, or whether you're talking about advisors or sales teams, finding good people is really hard work. I mean, it's a full-time effort for dealers. And, so as I've been out talking with managers in dealerships and as our leadership program has started to roll out, one of the things I ask leaders when they come together in our groups is, describe for me the kinds of challenges or frustrations you're facing as it relates to keeping people. And they give a really accurate list. They're giving us the breadcrumbs we should be following, but not everybody's fixing it. Great guys like Ed Roberts are fixing it, and there's others following his example and setting their own. But as an industry, not everybody's working on this. How do we keep great people in our business? Because that's what's going to be how your hiring efforts of the future look, which is keeping the great ones. So that's why I put the title on that topic.
It's the retention is a major issue, Dave, as you know, in our industry, especially in service and parts and body shop. But I guess the question is, how do we go forward and move forward towards having better retention?
Well, I think we've got to put a couple of things on the table, right? The first thing we have to do is we have to say, okay, there's a thing called culture in our business that if we're not focusing on the intentional efforts it takes to create a culture that causes people to want to be there, we're going to have a problem, right? And so culture isn't something that we can just put on a poster in the technician locker room or in the employee lunchroom, right? Culture has to be something that as a group of leaders, the service director, the drive manager, the parts manager, the body shop manager, if they have one, and the GM and the dealer principal, and everybody in variable who comes back and either handles themselves respectfully back there or doesn't, all of that has to come together to create an environment where intentionally we go, we're going to rise to a level that causes people to go, this is a great place to be. This is where I'm supposed to be. And so I think you have to start with that foundationally, and then you can start to look at the interesting things you would do that are additive to the culture. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And Dave, I've never heard so much talk about culture before as I have, recently now in our industry. Give me some examples of dealerships that you've worked with that are doing well, in their fixed operations.
I like to follow breadcrumbs, right? And so when I go look at, let's use Ed, who you and I both know, right? And if you go look at the things Ed does at his store, right? Whether it be the kind of recognition that hangs from a banner on a ceiling over a service bay, right?
Yes.
Or whether it does the simple things, which is Ed's focus on relational connection, right? And I think we have to redefine a little bit of that relational connection for folks in fixed ops, because we have so many people who have an important and needed analytical focus that some of the warm and fuzzy doesn't come easy and natural. So what does it mean to have a relational focus on the team? And I think the definition has to be, I care, not I took you out for pizza and beer and did, extracurricular stuff, right? It's I care. I care enough to know that you've got a daughter in school who's graduating in the next month, right? Sound familiar at your house,
It
right?
does. Yes.
It's I care enough to say, hey, by the way, congratulations, you got another one off the payroll, right? And make somebody know that I think about what they do and I think about what's important to them. And when you start to put those pieces together, you start to see what could happen. Beyond the connection relationally and beyond some of the recognition, let's talk crazy for a minute, okay? I was at a dealership in the last month that redid the employee lunchroom and technician break area where the advisors and everybody goes. And they went crazy and didn't spend a lot, but put 4 65-inch TVs up on the wall. Ted, I watched technicians playing Call of Duty on their lunch, and they were smiling and talking to each other. I watched advisors catching up on ESPN while they were eating a sandwich, right? And I talked to the service director about it, and he said, Dave, I've never spent $600 a TV and found such a reaction. He goes, they can't believe that I did this. I didn't spend a lot. I bought some, chairs. I bought 4 TVs. I connected it to the satellite service we already have. I bought a Nintendo Wii. I bought a PlayStation, and they sign into their own online accounts. They pull up their own games that has their points and their stuff. He goes, I don't understand it all. He goes, but I get thanked every day by somebody. Man, that lounge is so cool. And so
Wow.
I think we have to get a little crazy and start to think about what kind of things would I do that I normally would have ruled out, right? And the generation of it's all about money, it's all about their money as the retention tool. Yeah, it's just not the same anymore, right? It has changed, and there are things like, Ted, what would happen if we modernized the computers they used? Can you imagine the reaction of a team in a dealership that didn't have the most antiquated, no audio card in it, because that saved $27 when we ordered it. No video card, because that saved a little money, right? What if we just started to think about the things that they care about? And another dealer group, Ted, they've put together a committee of some of their young, successful, great attitude people, and they call it the steering committee for how they're looking at retention. And these folks meet with the general manager, general sales manager, service director, and parts manager every single month. And their job is to coach the bosses about the things going on in the dealership that are or are not creating engagement. A reason that people would say, no, this is the place I'm supposed to be, right? And what if we started to empower them to be creative about what we should do? So that's what I mean when I say we should do crazy stuff, right? And I think that's what innovative dealers are doing right now in order to go, I cannot afford to lose the 4-year, 6-year, or 10-year person to another dealership.
It really, what you're telling me, it really enforces, Dave, that we are still in a people business, and we got to focus on the people, not just the customers, but our own internal customers. What have you found to be the best way to predict or understand what's going on with retention, Dave, at a store?
So I got to tell you, you got to have data.
Okay.
It's not just walk around, talk, and get a feel anymore. I think that we have to embrace the idea that we're going to measure employee engagement. We're going to measure how satisfied they are with being part of our company. And we're not going to spend the time looking at the results going, all right, now let's try and figure out who wrote this. Instead, how about we take the results and we go, all right, let's follow these breadcrumbs to see how we make the business better. Let's empower a group of people to solve the problem. But we got to start with data, right? Fixed ops is the best at using data. We use it in all sorts of ways to make the business better, right? How about we use it to understand the people side? How about we look at that data and go, all right, what's my roadmap to, I want to keep my technicians here, right? I want to keep my advisors here. And that's the start of the process for me is let's not guess. Let's go accumulate the data around employee satisfaction. Let's go accumulate the data through management feedback that we get. And then let's go make things better based on what they want. Make sense?
Yeah, it does. So would you say, is it the data, or is there another first step that leaders have to take towards, improving retention?
Well, yeah, no, you're hinting at something I should think about, right? Which is the obvious, which is I think the first thing that has to happen is we have to decide intentionally that we want to create retention,
Okay.
and that it's not just going to happen by accident, right? Retention of employees is not going to happen because we only had great benefits or we only had competitive pay. Retention is going to happen when a leader goes, okay, I may only have a plan to be here another 5 years, but what I owe to the future of this business is the idea that says, I'm going to make sure that I leave this place better. And therefore, I have to be focusing on what does retention look like? What's my current retention? What's my employee tenure? And I got to want to make it better. I mean, when you look at some of the great folks, and you're going to have a bunch of them in the next 2 days, right? When you look at the great folks running dealerships that you bring here for us to listen to, right? They've all made conscious decisions. I want my business to be better than just an industry average. So I would imagine that's the starting point that you're thinking of that comes to my mind.
Okay. I know that you, just as you have seen a lot of dealerships over the years, okay, over your career, and recently as well with what you're doing. What would you say is the most out of the box retention activity that you can share with us that you've seen?
Yeah. So, I gave you some examples, in what I've seen, right? I'll tell you that what I see dealers doing that makes me excited for our future, right?
Okay.
Is I see more and more dealers bringing the young and the generation that's coming into our business that could be here for the next 25 or 30 years. I see them bringing them to the forefront of, I'm going to call it a listening tour, right? I see the next generation of the dealer's family getting involved, and I see them more willing to look at things beyond, okay, what if we just didn't do an employee cookout at a grill outside the dealership? What if we started to really think differently about those things? And, when I look at a dealer group that I have that's kind of spread out across 3 states, one of the things that they're really focused on is how am I going to create an internal employee community? Meaning, how am I going to gather them together in a way that they can share and be connected across a digital space, right? What does it look like to get best practice ideas from a great person at our store in Florida that sells the same brand that I sell in Michigan? What does that look like if I wanted to do that? How do I create employee community in a dealer group that may be more than 3 stores? What if it's 25 stores? And so as we figure out how to gather people together, right, there are tools that will help us. Not just mine. There's things as simple as private Facebook groups that allow your employees to get to know each other. And we have to get past worries like, well, yeah, if I do that, one of those other stores, even though they're mine, is going to try and steal that person. We've got to bring people together. If you look even, last month in April, Ted, there was an article came out in Inc. magazine, and it talked about how they were beginning to decipher more about why so many people were struggling coming back to the workforce.
Okay.
And they've said, we can boil it down to 2 words. They said, it's employee encouragement.
Oh.
The ability for us to have our people together in an environment that it encourages them, that offers them learning opportunities, that offers them growth opportunities. And when you think about our dealer communities, we stay more island-like, even if a dealer owns 10 stores, because, well, somebody might steal somebody or something, right? So we have to start to break through some of those walls. And I think the best dealers are doing it. Look at what some of the best dealers are doing to stand out around bringing women into automotive. You create a culture that binds a group together that says, we believe in diversity. We believe in women in automotive and creating those environments. So the more we see those things, and I think we do have to go beyond a great break room. I think we do have to go beyond just writing thank you on their paycheck. Mm-hmm. So that's the kind of stuff that I see great dealers starting to do more and more of.
I hear this coming up now constantly from dealership employees and managers. But Dave, you have built out some great tools at Quantum5, and you are the only real company that's focused on this and doing this for the dealer body, the dealer community. And I thank you for that, by the way, because I think you are leading the charge on that. And that's why it's so important for our audience to hear about Quantum5 and what you've got going. Any last thoughts to share for this conference? Because we got like you said, we got a lot of folks coming up ahead and a lot of best practices. Any other things you'd like to impart with our audience today?
Ted, I'm grateful for your support, and you're right. We are working as hard as we can at Quantum. We are absolutely blessed to be in a place with a technology and a set of solutions around helping advisors, salespeople, leaders, service BDC people. It's being received, and we're grateful for all the new clients that are joining us. I got to tell you, we all saw something in April, that May has to stay close in our brains, right? Which is, you and I talked about it. This year's not going to be the same as last year. There's more work ahead of us, but there's also more opportunity ahead of us as we do that work. We're going to have to stay more focused now. We're going to have to stay on top of our game as to how we take care of these guests. And as business tightens, so may some of their incomes, and retention of those people in that environment is going to be critical. So I think this is a year that is proving, as we are now at the midpoint of May, to be one that really says leaders had better be listening to this broadcast for the next 2 days, right? And leaders had really better be ready to innovate, take chances, get creative with new things that better their business, because it's going to take that kind of leadership this year, don't you think?
Oh, you and I, my friend, we know it is. So, Dave, congratulations to you and your team at Quantum5. You are innovating. You are changing the retail landscape, one dealership, one dealer group at a time. And I applaud you for that. And you know what? You just talked about the technicians having fun, right? You're making our employees have fun. And in return, when our employees are happy, that passes over to our customers and our customer satisfaction, and that translates into profitability. There's a direct correlation to all these things, and I know you see it, my friend, and you're leading the way. So I thank you for all that you do. Dave, if our audience wants to reach out to you and find out more about Quantum5 and what you can do for them, what's the best way for them to do that?
Well, for sure, Ted, thanks for putting the ticker down there, because you can always go to our website. But as you guys know, I always do on Fixed Ops Roundtable. I'm still that business owner that's grateful to put his cell phone out there, right? So you can always call me, It's 480-452-6868. Or you can go to the website and one of our team will, reach out, answer questions. We love giving people demos of the app. We love taking people through how learning can be different in automotive now.
And I see an email address on there as well that starts with a DOB. So I guess that's Dave O'Brien.
It's either that or my date of birth, which I ain't never admitting on Fixed Ops Roundtable, just for the record. But yeah, DOB at quantum5.ai.
All right, Dave. Hey, thanks for getting us started today. And again, congratulations.
I can't wait for the rest of the day.
Yeah, great stuff ahead. David O'Brien from Quantum5 here today at the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Thank you, Ted.